What's up, everyone? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Today we have a awesome live stream. We've got Julian coming on, head of biz dev over at ApeSwap. John, how are you today?
I'm good. Nice avatar, Joe.
I know we're both looking really good today. We are undoxing ourselves. We are here hanging out as avatars, which is kind of nice. It's like, I got the hat on. I'm just chilling. Maybe we can work some of these in once in a while. Um, Thanks everyone for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could be so kind to hit that subscribe button to make sure you get notified when we have future live streams. See if you want to get in there and ask some questions. We will try and do our best to get to them towards the end. And finally, and as always, our disclaimer, we do not take payment for our live stream. We invite fun people who have dedicated their careers and lives to founding and building in the Web3 industry. So with that, let's bring Julian up. Julian, what's up, my man?
Hello. Hey. How's everyone doing?
Good, dude. How are you?
Fantastic.
Doing great. I was gonna say I love these avatars you guys have going on here.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was a nice little touch with our rebrand that we had back in October. Was we surprised everyone on the team, even John was surprised, and we thought about what would a person that lived in at the time we were calling the lunar metropolis, what would a person look like that lives there? And so this is kind of what we came up with, which was pretty cool. So I appreciate that, man.
Love it. No, I feel like it fits really well with the whole vibe that you guys have developed. I guess it's the lunar metropolis, as you're saying. And I love that intro too. Really, I guess ties the whole thing together. So no, really,
Thanks.
really cool.
Thanks, man. So we always like to start the live stream and ask, where are you in the world and what's it like there?
Awesome. So I'm doing a lot of traveling at the moment, actually. I just spent
Digital
some
nomad,
time.
Web3 nomad.
Digital nomad, exactly. I'm actually in Los Angeles for the week right now. And then I'm gonna be. It's a beautiful day here, by the way. Sunny and blue skies as it typically is over here. But no, I'm doing a lot of traveling at the moment, and I'm probably actually going to be moving to Argentina shortly here. So I'm super excited about that, and just want to continue kind of exploring the world and checking out different spots. But LA has been my home base for a while, and yeah, just kind of here for the week, gathering some things and moving on pretty shortly here.
Congrats. I think last time we were chatting, you were down there getting everything. Maybe you were getting things dialed and set up. So that'll be a fun event. That'll be a fun next journey and adventure for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm psyched. Really cool spot.
Cool, man. So we do want to chat a little bit. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things happening in the world right now with regards to money and crypto and what's happening kind of over in Ukraine and in Europe.
Sure.
I mean, what are your thoughts right now on kind of current events and the relationship of the cryptocurrency market? I mean, we're seeing insane volatility across the market, but what are your thoughts and just in general of what's happening?
Sure. No, definitely. I mean, as you said, the world stage at the moment is kind of in a really tricky position. And it's just like a lot going on. And obviously a lot of these events are pretty sad and unfortunate for a lot of the people involved, particularly in Ukraine. Definitely have a number of partners that have team members over there or have their entire teams based out of Ukraine, who are, not doing so hot right now and obviously experiencing a decent amount of turmoil, due to kind of the greater world events that are happening right now. So, my thoughts and prayers definitely go out to those guys, and hopefully things start looking up for them here pretty soon. But in terms of the crypto markets, as much as I hate to say it, I'm kind of thinking things are going to get a little bit more positive due to these events. Again, it's not like that's not what we wanted. It's not the ideal way path forward, I guess, to generating more interest and getting more people into crypto. But at the end of the day, I think uncertainty, fear, and obviously regulation or sanctions can lead to pretty major increases in the crypto markets. Even though, right now we've just been seeing a lot of volatility, I think we'll probably get to that point pretty soon, especially if we start to see like Stripe or other like major banks and payment processors start to kind of restrict Russia, and I think that could lead to some pretty major interest in the crypto field or crypto space as a whole. In terms of the market itself and price fluctuations, I feel like we are starting to get on more of an uptrend. Obviously, I don't spend as much time as I'd like to looking at charts, and I'm more of in the weeds, you know what I mean, of just talking to partners and feeling out the market as a whole. But I know that we've had like kind of this big, I guess, downtime, or a lot of downtime, probably since the turn of the new year, in terms of projects just kind of delaying everything and saying, well, the market's down and this and that, so we want to wait. And now, things have really started picking back up again, and then the market itself is picking back up again. So I don't know, personally, I'm super bullish on this year as a whole. I think we're going to see some really, really decent price action, and I definitely don't see us entering like a really long-term bear market like we've kind of seen in the past. I think the market is fundamentally different today than it used to be back then, like particularly in like the 2017, 2018 times when things got a little rough for people who were involved at that time. Not sure if you guys were around or not, but obviously,
I'm sure we were.
Yeah, exactly. So it got a little rough there. Got a little rough, but I feel like at that time, we were in this position where, in the crypto market, it was really all about, buying, selling, trading, ICOs. There wasn't really anything to do in terms of like legitimate utility for tokens at that time, and crypto as a whole. And I feel like today we are entering a very different, I guess, bear market, if you could call it. Not even now currently, but like we're in a very different bear market, and potentially I just don't see it reaching the same lows that it did at that time, just because of how much there is to do now. You know what I mean? And obviously what I mean by that is like, between DeFi, giving legitimate use cases to a lot of tokens, and really decentralizing finance as a whole, and giving people opportunities to dig in to traditional applications and traditional finance, but in a decentralized manner, has really opened up the ability for people to use these tokens and interact with them, regardless of if the market's trending up or trending down. Couple that with the fact that there's thousands of new crypto companies that have sprung up since the last bear market. It's like the overall participation rate in these markets is vastly different than it used to be. And obviously the people that are now working full time in these markets, it's a very different number. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that, if you're engaged in Web3, in DeFi, in crypto, in this day and age, and you're working full time, regardless of if the market is trending up or down, you're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? You're going to keep doing your thing, keep trading, keep building. And obviously that kind of, I guess, places almost a floor on how low we can go in a sense. And then obviously there's the whole NFT side of things where, when ETH is down, NFTs are going up, and for the most part. So it just feels like there's a lot more to do now. You know what I mean? There's more people involved. There's a lot more to do. And I just, long-winded way of saying, I don't see us going down the same way we used to.
Julian, you said something really interesting earlier. You said, that projects that they were gonna launch earlier this year, and they kind of put a pause on things, and it's now picking up. Like, what kind of growth are you guys seeing in that?
Sure. Yeah, I can tell you, from our perspective, we do a lot of IDOs. We call them initial ape offerings over on ApeSwap. We have a lot of fun with those. Nice. And we typically do about 1 or 2 a month in terms of launches. And we had all of these amazing partners lined up for launches on ApeSwap since I think we've been talking to some of them since like mid or early December. And a lot of them have just been like, oh, we have to delay. The market's not right now. It's not a good time to launch this and that. And I gotta say, probably in the past month or so, Most of those partners have said that they're ready to go. Things are picking back up. They've decided to pick a date, and yeah, in terms of growth, I mean, it's been going great. Not just for us, but I feel like even the partners that we weren't necessarily launching with, that were just interested in getting listed once they launched, it's you know, they're all ready to go as well now, and officially setting dates. And it's funny too, because it's like this mix of people who, you know, part of it is, well, the market's picking back up, so we feel like it's a good time. And then another part of it is, we just can't wait any longer. You know what I mean? It's like we've been waiting for 2 to 3 months, and like we're just sitting, you know, burning through cash, and just, you know, sitting on our hands, essentially not doing anything. And I find that,
Julian,
yeah,
I feel
please.
like, sorry to interrupt. I feel like
No.
it's like I see a lot of that, and I have seen a lot of that over the last 60 days, whether it's like, you know, new projects that we invested in or something else where they're saying, oh, we're going to pause, we're going to wait, you know, we're going to wait till the market's better or something. And it's like, actually, like, I don't think that that's a good way to approach it. Honestly, it's
Right.
like, if you're approaching it with like, cause it's like, hey, you could have been building and out there and learning in this like kind of little, cause I just feel like this is a small correction in a longer like bull market that we're in, but it's like you would have had this opportunity to be out there and learning and building and doing everything. And then when the market starts to turn around, you're really taking advantage of that versus like, hey, why would you want to launch on, you know, Bitcoin's ultimate high, right? It's like now you're just, the market's just kind of pushing you down for the next couple of months or whatnot, if, you know, unless it's going to go in like way higher than that. And it's like, man, it is something that I feel like it's a more short-sighted view to a launch. Thinking like, oh, I'm just going to ride this little wave that's happening in the market versus like, hey, we're out here to build for like the next like 25 years.
Exactly. No, I could not agree more. It's like, do you need to potentially, like, yeah, you could probably scrape an extra $100,000-$200,000 from your launch if you're, you know, hitting it, like you said, at Bitcoin all-time high. But like, is that going to set you up for success in the long term? Because exactly as you said, you know, unless the markets just keep trending up, you're literally setting yourself up to have a successful launch and then immediately drop, if the markets start to correct. Because obviously, like, the newest tokens are the first to, I mean, take a plunge for the most part, when the market corrects. So it's I completely agree. And then beyond that as well, you know, to me, it's like, if every single project in the crypto space just paused and said, oh, we need to wait for the market to recover when the market was down, I mean, it turns into kind of this vicious cycle, right? Where like everybody's off, everybody's off. So people are losing interest, losing faith, and projects kind of continue slipping down. So, you know, that's why our philosophy at ApeSwap is, you know, I mean, we really don't pay that much attention to price as a whole. Obviously, everybody in crypto does, but, you know, to a certain extent, our mentality is all about building. You know what I mean? Keep your head down, keep building, and then, you know, the price will kind of follow, as you continue working and growing and developing. And if anything, like you said, those periods of downtime are really when you can focus the most and get the most done, and really lay that foundation for that next cycle.
It's so interesting because, you know, we didn't pick the date that we launched. It just happened to be around a certain time on October 20th. That was the day that Bitcoin basically hit its high. And then we fell back down like the market did since then. And it's, you know, it's interesting there's kind of two sides to this. There's the like staring at price all day, you know, and staring at transactions. And then there's this other side of building. And I look at, like, I've never seen our team build faster than they are now. And that's the thing that I'm most impressed with a lot of projects that over the last several months, like which ones have actually been building and which ones have been solving problems and which ones are doing things in a new way. And I think that's the most fascinating thing, because it's pretty easy to do that with a stable mind as your token goes up every day. It's a whole heck of a lot harder when the market's falling every day. And so pretty interesting. I mean, are there any projects that you're seeing that are just building like crazy that you're all excited about?
Oh, for sure. I'd say honestly, one of our top partners, Animoca Brands, is probably one of the best examples of this. They don't care, you know, which direction the market's heading in. All they do is invest, build, and you know, continue growing their businesses, scaling. It's like nonstop. All of their businesses are just like operating at full force, 24/7. regardless of the market conditions. And I think that's a really, really, really great example of like what should be happening. You know what I mean? Again, it's all about laying that foundation versus like, oh, you know, let's take a break because the market's down and then come back when the market's back up. Like complete opposite mentality, I think is what will continue to drive upward momentum in the market and allow projects to succeed. Like the ones that are really putting in that work now are the ones that are going to reap the benefits down the line. And I guess like other than them, I mean, most of our top partners, I would say, are continuing to build, continuing to grind, continuing to engage their community as much as they can. Obviously, you know, it can be a bit demotivating to watch the price slip and slip and slip for months at a time. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, again, it's just important to keep building and important to keep growing as much as you can.
So we're about
interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
16 minutes in, but we still haven't asked Julian, what is ApeSwap?
No, yeah, definitely. So ApeSwap is a decentralized exchange over on Binance Smart Chain and Polygon. We are one of the longest standing dexes over on BSC, or I guess BNB chain now that it's been renamed. Still getting used to that one. But yeah, I know we've been around since early February of 2021. So just about over a year, a little over a year now. We just celebrated our birthday a couple weeks back, actually. It's just super exciting. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, we're like top 5, I'd say, on Polygon. I think we're the second or third largest DEX currently on BSC, obviously behind Pancake. And yeah, it's been an awesome adventure, kind of, you know, journeying into Web3 and DeFi this past year, and obviously growing an exchange from the bottom up, you know, in a space where there is no playbook. You know what I mean? There's no set of instructions, there's no rules. You know, you just kind of figure it out as you go along. And I mean, in that time, you know, we've grown our team to over 30 people now. We have like 1.2 million monthly active users. And I mean, the experience that we've gained running an exchange, running a DeFi protocol has been absolutely unbelievable. And we're super excited to, you know, continue pushing forward and continue growing over this next year and the next coming years.
Well, congrats on that. And, you know, you said before we started that you were training 6 new BizDev members. And when you think about a DEX, you normally don't think about a sales team.
Right.
So like what are your goals around that new BizDev team? And, you know, when we started kind of working together on a couple of things, you know, we noticed pretty quickly, you know, when you talk to a lot of different exchanges, whether it's a centralized exchange or decentralized exchange, you figure out, or even partnerships in the space, it's very quickly, you can tell how organized another partner is based on, you know, just how quickly they're setting up a Telegram group, how many people are interacting in there, like who are there specific roles that people can, you know, you can tell based on someone, the way that they're talking. Are they more marketing focused? Are they integration focused? Like, you know, what is the process? And so I felt that you guys had a very solid process for everything that you guys were working on. And it sounds like you guys are kind of buttoned up there. And so I'm assuming that 6 new BizDev members are kind of part of that process.
Yes, definitely. No, appreciate that call out. You know, definitely we've again, over the past year, I've spent a lot of time kind of refining our overall process, you know, between I guess like operations, business development, marketing teams. You know, unifying all of that sometimes can be a little bit stressful. And obviously, you know, when you're averaging, I think we averaged 1 partner every other day for the past year. It can become a lot, you know what I mean, to ensure that all the expectations are being met with every partner, and that obviously deadlines are being met, schedules aren't being messed up. So yeah, no, we definitely spend a lot of time working on our overall operations and process, ensuring that, you know, we're coming off as buttoned up as we can. So appreciate that. And of course, you know, acting as buttoned or you know, ensuring that we are being as buttoned up as we can internally as well, just for our own sake. So no, it's been a huge process. And yeah, scalability for us this year is a huge concern, not concern, but I guess like top of mind goal, you know what I mean? We are hiring some more marketing people, we are hiring more devs. And then obviously we are in the process of training and getting up to speed 6 new BizDev reps, like I mentioned. And yeah, it's been I mean, it's awesome, super exciting on that front. And they are definitely part of this, I guess, like bigger initiative as a whole. From our perspective, it's been mostly myself and DK, one of the co-founders of ApeSwap, that have pushed forward on most of the deals this past year. I'd say in the past 6 months or so, we've brought on 2 other biz dev people that have really been helpful in actually driving home more deals and pushing forward on that front as well. While we've kind of, or especially DK, has been kind of looking to take a little bit more of a step back so that he can take a higher up role in the organization, be more of a management position. And then from my perspective, this year, a big focus for me is actually going to be attending different events and starting to kind of hit that next level of networking and ensuring that we're kind of keeping up to date on all the latest developments in the space, while also meeting up in person with people and starting to develop some deeper relationships as well. So obviously ensuring that we're kind of continuing to hit on all the deals that we want to be hitting on, and obviously continuing to drive home value to our users at the end of the day through those deals is a big part of the focus. And so ensuring that as we kind of take those steps back, we have people able to kind of backfill that work and even potentially go above and beyond what we've been doing is super, super critical. And so, yeah, absolutely. Bringing on these 6 people is a lot of work. Obviously there's a lot that goes into this stuff, and a lot of knowledge that needs to be developed and refined in order to really be closing deals and actively participating in biz dev, to the level that we expect people to. But I mean, it's going to be all worth it in the end, and we're super excited to have them on.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I think John wanted to know what the secret to all the growth has been.
Yeah, like it's incredible. Like I so appreciate hearing you talk about how you're scaling the team, because it's so important and hard to do. What exactly is that secret? Yeah, like what is it? Is it being partnered up with Binance? Is it just the market in general? Is it people migrating from centralized exchanges to more of a DEX? Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I wish we were partnered with Binance. No, I'd say from our perspective, it's really I guess staying ahead of the curve, right? More than anything, beyond like an innovation standpoint, beyond a product standpoint, realizing that realizing what's happening in the market, what your competitors are doing, and how you can continue to really grow and I guess push forward and break through to kind of the next level. And what we have a lot of internal discussions and team meetings with kind of the key decision makers over at ApeSwap. And we actually, at the beginning of this year, or like the first week of January or so, I think we had like 70 hours worth of meetings or something like that. Like we were all on calls for about 12 hours a day, all together, just like, let's figure this stuff out. What are our priorities for this year? How can we really break through and not just maintain? And a big part of that discussion was obviously scalability, and realizing that, like, okay, a lot of us are doing the work of 2, 3, sometimes even 4 people. How can we start to position ourselves in more of a managerial position and really have the time to focus on bigger initiatives as a whole, and focus in on those larger initiatives while maintaining everything we've been doing, and beyond maintaining, again, kind of growing and scaling those operations as well. And like you said, it's difficult. Scaling a team is not easy. It's hard to find good people. It's hard to train people to make sure that they're kind of hitting the expectations that you set for them. And then beyond that, just ensuring that you have the funds, the level-headedness, and the managerial team to really make it happen has been super tricky. But obviously, we've got an amazing team of apes over at ApeSwap that kind of run everything behind the scenes and obviously publicly as well. And so, working with them has been awesome. I literally could not ever be more thankful for the team that we work with, and probably have never worked with a better team in my life, honestly. So it's really refreshing and really interesting, honestly, because we're constantly learning from each other, constantly growing from each other's experiences, and constantly open to new ideas. And I think that's really the key to growing and being successful in the industry is not being stubborn, not I guess having one person who just feels like they need to hold the reins and drive the entire direction of the business. It's like, this is we're a DAO. This is a team effort. We're all together in this, and we're all trying to figure it out. You know what I mean?
So Julian, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, for internal meetings, are you guys all avatars as well?
For the most part, yeah. I'd say we have had some meetings. It depends on the people. There are some people who are a little bit more comfortable, I guess, with that than others. But no, for the most part, we're all just avatars. Avatars with a foxy mindset.
I wanted to ask because I think it's fascinating, because it's like, we are in this world where, someone's talent and someone's drive is one of the only indicators of whether or not that person is performing, right? Or what is the outcome, right? And no one will know, it's like, imagine if it was all just driven by like a wallet address, right? And no one knows what you look like, maybe they don't even know like your gender, they don't know anything about you. And there's something so refreshing, I think, for some people for that it's like, that's gonna be an interesting and cool place to go work. It's like, hey, I can go over here and I can feel like it can be comfortable to be myself. So I mean, are you finding some of that in the way that you guys are recruiting? Are there people that, like, is that part of kind of recruiting, that, hey, you can kind of be who you want to be over here?
Oh, most definitely. And that's part of what makes, I guess, like DeFi as a whole so interesting, and like decentralized protocols so interesting, right? Is like exactly what you're saying. You can be who you want to be. Your work is really what speaks for itself. You know what I mean? You don't need to prove that like you've got this laundry list of degrees or experience or any of that. It's like, it's a good way to get your foot in the door, for sure. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to actually producing work in this space, I mean, oftentimes, it has nothing to do with any prior experiences you might have had. You know what I mean? And again, while those can kind of help and develop like this foundation for you to better be able to learn and refine your skills in the space, overall, there are so many outliers that I would say don't really fall into that category, and who might not have a degree or might not have the same education as some other people have, and then are producing much higher quality of work than most people are. So I think it's an amazing opportunity for most people, and especially people who might be nervous or shy, or I guess uncomfortable as a whole with the typical hiring process and more traditional workspace environments, where right now, like you're saying, I mean, you can literally be whoever you want to be, choose an avatar, choose a name. As long as you're doing quality work for the DAO, you are a valued member of our family, of our community, and we would love to have you on board.
It's beautiful.
Right? I love it. I think it's so interesting. No, it's really cool. Very unique to our industry for sure.
Totally. Yeah. And it's just such a different way of thinking. There's like, even you think like a couple of years ago, and there's still people going into an office, sitting there, until a certain time of the day, and then it's like all they want to do is just go home, because they've been sitting there in that chair for 8 hours and probably surfing some social media site for like 3/4 of it, and have to be forced to go to a meeting that they may or may not even talk in. It's just, and there's people that are in companies that are still gonna push for that, and they're trying to get people back in offices. They're trying to get people, to come and spend 8 hours and do the same thing. It's like, did you not learn?
Right?
Like
have we not gotten past that?
The smartest people in the world want to work the way that they want to work, and they want to be where they want to be. And it's just really cool to see, not even just probably more like, when you would say like, maybe you could say like, okay, if you hire a developer or someone else, they can maybe be in a role like that, where maybe it's not as social, but it's like, if you can start to say, okay, I could do an entire deal, like a biz dev deal, and just do it with someone over Telegram and a couple of calls is like insane.
Right? No, it's so insane. And like I was saying before, like there's no playbook for any of this stuff, other than like the playbook that we've developed and have worked on, for the past year. But like there was no playbook, there was no rules, you know what I mean? It was just like everybody communicates through Telegram. Everybody communicates via these like meetings where, similar to what we're doing now, it's just voice and avatars. And you're able to close, like multi-million-dollar deals through just text and voice, with people, who might be the complete other side of the world. It's fascinating. It's fascinating and definitely something I could not be more excited to be a part of.
It's really interesting when you think about it, like, because we were exactly this scenario. 2 years ago, we had a nice office, and COVID hit, and we said, all right, let's all go home. And as we did that, between then and now, we've hired people all over the world. And now that it's possible to go back in an office, and I know we're not alone in this, because the last probably 5 projects we talked to on our live stream have all said the same thing. They've grown to, a huge number of people. And now it doesn't make sense to go to an office because everyone is everywhere. But right. It's sort of like, and there's more traveling, there's more conferences, there's more stuff that's starting to happen. But it's like, it just doesn't even make sense. Like you couldn't possibly have an office when you have employees or, people that work with you that are in 25 different countries. It doesn't make sense anymore at all. So exactly. It's going to be interesting is, like you said, you're 30 people, we're about 20. And when you throw that together, what happens when you're 300 and you're all remote? And what happens when you're 600 and you're all remote? And those are the questions I'm wondering the answers to, is like, how does this evolve as all of these crypto organizations, I'll call them, become much, much larger? It's easy when you can see each other each day.
I feel like we've been, it's even like 2 years ago coming back from like Los Angeles in the car at night, listening to like those podcasts. And I always come back to CZ on this one, because it's like, been in the industry for a long time. Like I've been listening to CZ for a long time. And whenever he's talking with anyone like Anthony Pompliano or on any of these things, it always comes back to, what's your biggest challenge? Right. And every time over the last like 4 years, he's asked that question. It's people and remote and hiring and talent. Like he's never said anything else. It's literally the exact same problem for the last 4 years. Right. Like, how do you organize people remotely, some of which may, be like anonymous or pseudo anonymous? And how do you get all of those people running in the same direction with the same vigor and excitement? It's like, geez, like, I don't know. It's like, but it's like, that's just the constant adaptation that I think all will face as like leaders in this industry, is how do we, set the example, but also, continue to drive the growth that needs to be driven, and it's like, I feel like when COVID hit, people made a decision. It's like, hey, you either need to go all in on being remote or all out. Like you can't be like 1 foot in. Like I know Facebook and some of these other people are like, oh, we'll come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays maybe, or come in on this day or that day. It's like people, they can't do that. It's not how people work. There's not like you're not going to get someone's most quality work if you're just like still putting them in like a box, but like the box is like some days you're at home,
I couldn't agree more. No, that's super interesting. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how, continuing to expand and grow these giant DAOs, because like you said, I mean, we're going to get there, you know what I mean, where it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of people working for these DAOs. And I think it's going to be fascinating. I know we have a couple people on our team who have different thoughts as to how that could be run, particularly from a DAO perspective. It's like, I can't say I've dug too deep into this, but I know ApeTastic on our team loves to think about this stuff, and he's come up with a couple of like big plans in terms of like, setting up sub DAOs and kind of different organizations that kind of, individually represent, for example, like a marketing DAO or something like that can then hire internally. And then, I mean, there's so many different ways to think about it, and it's wild. And I think it's going to be absolutely one of the biggest challenges for sure. Like you're saying, like, how do you keep hundreds of people all over the world, all paddling in the same direction, all working towards the same goal, when I mean, you don't have that opportunity to have them all in a space and in one place, all talking to each other on the same time zone. Because I think time zones are definitely one of the biggest issues and challenges when it comes to this stuff, you know. And so it's yeah, no, that's super fascinating, and definitely will continue to be a challenge for everyone involved as we all continue growing.
So Julian, I want to talk a little bit more about ApeSwap, you know, the product itself.
Sure.
And, you know, just, I mean, we saw in here when we did our launch, which was awesome. You guys did a great job. And then it's like, you know, you've got pools, you've got farms, you've got borrowing, you know, it says supply, borrow, earn, right? That's kind of what you guys are leading with right now. Maybe you could talk just a little bit more about just like the product in general, kind of where you guys started with everything and how it's kind of evolved over the last couple of years, and, you know, where you guys are kind of pushing right now.
For sure, for sure. No, it's a great question. Yeah, so you know, obviously, when we started out back in February of last year, you know, the landscape was on BNB especially. The landscape was very different than what it looks like today. You know, at that time, it was really just like shit coins, yield farms, and you know, overall pretty low caliber of projects working on BSC. So we've grown a lot since that time, and I think the chain itself has matured a lot since that time, and it's been a really great experience for us, you know, especially coming into the space. And obviously, you know, we're all very familiar with DeFi and crypto topics, and we're very familiar with crypto and DeFi topics at that time as well. Most of us have been in the industry for, you know, several years. And but still, even then, there's a big difference between, you know, being a participant in the market and actually running and owning a protocol. It's like a completely different ballpark. So, you know, from that perspective, we definitely learned a lot at the time, and are still learning every single day. But you know, we've learned a ton working in this industry for the past year, and obviously, again, starting out kind of where we started, and then growing and maturing alongside BNB has been really awesome. But you know, when we first started, it was really like our biggest focus, and our biggest focus to this day as well, has been, you know, obviously running a DEX, being an exchange, a decentralized exchange, and obviously providing decent earning opportunities for users on the platform, whether that's through the pools that we have, or the farms that we have, or even the initial ape offerings that we do. Just providing different earning opportunities and financial opportunities for our users has kind of been, I guess, our core focus since we started. But in the past few months, we've started to expand that idea and thought process a lot more. And we're realizing now, you know, we're becoming more of a DeFi hub than anything else. You know, we started as a DEX, and now we're really focused in on becoming a DeFi hub as much as we can. And what I mean by that is offering, you know, different services that, you know, you might not necessarily find in a traditional DEX, that are interesting and captivating for users, and of course continue to provide different earning opportunities for them as well. So I think one of the best examples of that is our lending network that we've worked with Ola to set up over the past few months. We recently took it out of beta. I think we are, I actually don't know, I haven't looked in a couple of days, but I think we're over 60 million now in terms of TVL over there, which is awesome. And we're still, you know, continuing to build that out, but it's kind of another, I guess, arm in our overall DeFi ecosystem that we're building. And we've got a couple other things in the pipeline that we're cooking up right now, including some fixed income products, like a bonding type of product that we're calling ApeSwap Treasury Bills, which is super exciting. Don't want to give away too much information on that before, you know, we officially release it. Otherwise, marketing will kill me. But we got some exciting stuff.
Hopefully, do it.
Yeah, right. I wish. But I can tell you that it's going to be really innovative, and definitely one of the first protocols doing so on BNB chain. So very excited to get that pushed out. I think over the next like month or two, we're going to have that out. So I'm psyched for that one. And it's going to kind of, you know, continue to round out this this idea of being a DeFi hub, right? Because like, you know, being a DEX, we've realized we're materially different than a lot of the other projects and protocols that are out there. You know what I mean? Every project that has a token, for the most part, is a very niche product, right? They do one thing. They're a GameFi project. They're an NFT marketplace. They are, this one very specific thing that obviously their token revolves around. But it makes it, I guess, not more difficult, but again, just a more niche product versus being a DEX. Kind of opens you up to this potential of working with just about anybody, right? We don't have any sort of restrictions on who we can work with. Obviously, we pick and choose the partners that we work with, but being decentralized, anybody can come and list on ApeSwap. Anybody can come and add liquidity to the exchange and really start participating in the ecosystem and getting their users involved. So from that perspective, that's kind of where the idea for the whole DeFi Hub thing sprung up internally, is like, we've realized, we can work with anyone, and we're kind of becoming this like central hub for all these projects over on BSC. So how can we continue to tap into that idea and continue appealing to as many different projects, as many different business verticals, as many different users as possible? And so, that's where we're like, okay, well, let's look at lending. Okay, well, let's look at fixed income products. And okay, let's continue looking at launches, and let's continue obviously being the best DEX that we can be. And through all of those different avenues, we're continuing again to build out this narrative and this story of being a DeFi hub. But at the same time, we're acquiring a very large user base, because we're not, again, like, we're not a niche product. You know what I mean? We're tapping into all these different protocols, tapping into all these different projects, and really are allowing ourselves to grow and become, the decentralized hub, a DeFi hub that we really envision and have been envisioning for the past year.
So as you're talking about building that hub out, who is ApeSwap for? What does a typical ApeSwap user look like?
Great question. I guess, from our perspective, it's just about anybody. We're always talking about community, inclusiveness, and being open and welcoming. And that's, a huge thing that we preach kind of top down, from internally within our own team to the partners that we work with. We're always very solution oriented. We always want to have opportunities for partners to work with us, regardless of what their needs are and regardless of what they're looking for. It's always like, how can we figure this out? You know what I mean? Partners come to us with something that they want to do, and we are like, okay, what can we offer them? How can we take advantage of this opportunity as much as we can? You know what I mean? And make sure that we're providing them with something that's valuable to them, and obviously getting something out of it that's valuable for us as well. And that's kind of where, a lot of these ideas have come from, of like, well, we want to be as solution oriented as we can be, and work with as many people as we can. And from a user perspective, it's the same thing, right? And that's why the DeFi Hub has really like come into existence from that perspective as well. Is like, if a user wants to do something, we want them to be able to do it on ApeSwap. You know what I mean? And so, building out all these different products, like the vaulting, even, for example, allows us to appeal to a much wider audience and say, well, if you want to trade, come to the DEX. If you want to farm, come to the farms page. If you want to earn in the pools, go to the pools page. Oh, you want to compound all that? Perfect. Go to the vaults. Oh, you need to borrow something, you want to lend out your banana and borrow something against it. Perfect. We got the lending network ready to go for that. So it's all about like appealing from our perspective, appealing to as many different people as possible, being as open and inclusive as we possibly can be, and just cultivating a welcoming attitude for people we work with, partners and and users alike.
That's super interesting. And what about on the other side of it? You've talked so much about the diversity of projects that are listing on ApeSwap. What are there's probably another 100 million projects out there that are considering being built and having a token and all that. I mean, what tips would you give them, and how can they work with ApeSwap?
That's a really good question. I mean, oh man, I guess it's difficult, to really dial in on that, in terms of, there's so many different, and kind of what I was saying earlier, there's so many different ways that projects can come about in the DeFi space, or even in crypto in general, right? There's so many, like, compared to 2017, where it's just like launch token, and like in 5 years, maybe we'll eventually do something. It's like the expectations are much higher now. You know what I mean? People want opportunities to be able to participate in. They want utility, they want DeFi opportunities, and they want protocols that actually have products built out. So in terms of like advice that I would give to any project looking to work with us or looking to succeed as a whole in the market, I would say don't focus so much on raising money and releasing a token. Focus more on your product and making sure that it's out and available, and you know, built in a way that will actually allow people to use it, and not like in some, you know, pre-beta or alpha state. You know what I mean?
Such good advice right there.
Really, yeah.
You mean literally have something before you launch something? I mean, it's crazy though, because I mean, when you're going back to what you were saying before, Julian, of like, you know, having a DEX that could have some more utility and was open-ended. I mean, that's kind of what we've loved about building LunarCrush, is like we get to be cheerleaders for the industry and work with everyone. But it's interesting because it's like you've got the layer ones, which it's like ubiquitous, right? Like anything can be built on anything, and that's where like the layers are. And then you had like kind of one-stop shop, like token, and hopefully maybe it would have some utility before they launched. And then you're kind of trying to find this middle ground. But just hearing you kind of talk about that, I mean, I've talked to exchanges, and some people are like, well, it seems like you guys are just too focused on your product and building and not focused on trading. I'm like, did you just say that to me?
Yeah.
Out loud? Were you just thinking that and then you said it out loud? Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're trying to build a community. We're working on governance. We're doing all of these things. We're trying to do the right thing. And these people there's still a subset of the industry that's just only focused on trading, and like, because that's like where their KPIs at the end of the day have led them, right? And they're going back into this old model of like, well, we just have to build into oblivion, you know, and grow into oblivion, like, because that's the only thing we can do. Like, are you guys thinking about KPIs in a different way because it's a DAO and it's people that are kind of pulled together? I mean, when you guys think about growth and adding value to the industry, how do you think about that?
That's a great question. I mean, from our perspective, it's you know, and obviously we've had a lot of delays in the past few months, and you know, finding good developers and you know, I mean, we have an amazing development team, but finding additional good developers and finding help in that regard, like from a product standpoint, from an operations standpoint, from all those perspectives is hard. You know what I mean? Especially in this industry where, you know, you can any good developer can spin up a halfway decent protocol in a matter of months, and you know, start generating pretty significant income. It becomes really difficult to find the right people, and you know, I guess in that sense, you know, we've had some delays, we've had some issues with certain products and things like that. But I can tell you, like, from our perspective and our philosophy, it's all about product. It's all about delivering on what you have, and it's all about, you know, continuing to build out that product and ensuring that, I mean, the users are going to stick around and actually use it, versus spending all their time speculating on something that I mean, on vaporware, really, for being honest. You know what I mean? And that's really where, like, I mean, that's where that came from my perspective. And that's why I'm like laughing. I think it's crazy that you heard that from an exchange. It's like, of course we're focused on trading, trade volume. Of course, like, we're focused on those metrics as well. But in our experience, users want to see successful products, and they want to actually interact with them and have something tangible to work with, versus speculation, which obviously is a huge part of the market. And there are plenty of, you know, protocols and tokens out there that succeed on speculation alone. But in terms of, you know, generating true value and I guess creating real communities around your product that actually believe in it and aren't just believing in it as kind of the flavor of the month, or, you know, this like speculative game that they're playing where it's like, well, I think it's going to 10x and then I'm dumping. It's like, how do you create a real community that actually wants to continue to be involved in your product, continue to use your product, and continue to participate in the community, kind of regardless of how high the price goes and regardless of where you get to. And to me, that's like the long-term vision, right? That's what we all should be striving for, is actually developing good products, actually marketing those good products, and not marketing vaporware and straight speculation, even though, you know, a healthy amount of speculation is great too. But if you're not building anything, or, you know, you're 2 years out, or you just hired your development team to start in the next 2 months and you're already planning your token launch, it's like, that's what we all need to be moving away from, in my mind. And we've had enough of that, for the past 5 years. It's like, can we please start doing better?
It's interesting for us. We look at, part of a user experience like led process is persona development. And I think a lot of projects don't even know what a persona is. And, I think one of those personas we can guarantee is the impatient investor, right? Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Give me 100x in the next 24 hours or I'm on to the next thing.
Binance.
Yeah, when finance, guarantee that they're going to exist, they're going to be there, and they're going to come and go. And part of it, it's easy to say maybe those aren't your users, the core users that you had intended when you were building your product out, but they're there, right? But I think it's really important for everyone to identify like who's going to come and go and who's going to stay. And for us, we look at it like we know that there's like we've implemented a leveling system, which is basically defines access and access to data, access to metrics, access to certain, perks and different things. And we're going to do a lot more with that. But for us, we also look at the B2B side, if that's even the proper term for crypto space. But we look at the projects themselves stay, right? And so we're really hyper focused on building tools for the projects as well, because the other problem that crypto has is sort of like this sort of I guess you could say like for starters, insights, right? There's no good competitive intelligence. There's content's fragmented and posted all over the place. Community activities everywhere. And so for us, it's like we look at that like from that side of it. The projects themselves stay, and how can we build tools to help support them, and really help advance the community further. I think that's super critical because it's sorely lacking. We have, lots of places to trade, but are there places that are really your partner? And I think that's a really key piece to I think where the crypto needs to go.
I completely agree. Do you know how many partners we've had that have approached us and are just like, so when can we announce our partnership? And I'm like, well, what are we partnering on? And they're like, no, we just want to announce a partnership. I'm like, okay, that's not like what what are we doing here?
As well.
So much.
It's crazy. It's crazy, right? So no, I completely agree. It's like beyond partnerships where you're just kind of one and done. You listed them or whatever. It's from our perspective, we list you and then we never talk again. It's like, how can we develop deeper bonds, you know what I mean, that are actually meaningful and not just, partnership announcements for no reason, and actually find like logical ways in which we can continue working together and building together that bring value to, both of our projects and both of our communities. And I think that's completely agree with you. That's really key to continuing kind of on the path that we're on, and I guess really like getting the crypto space to where we want it to be.
Beautiful. Love hearing that.
It's funny too. I was going to mention as well what you mentioned on the community members, that come and go. It's such an important thing as well to recognize that your most vocal community members do not represent your whole community. You know what I mean? Because those when Binance people, those when Moonsir, like that whole segment of Telegram chats and Discords is arguably the most vocal. Like you said, they come and they go, and it's like it's difficult sometimes to put on the blinders and really, I guess, focus on, okay, I don't need to listen to these people. These aren't really the people that are going to provide me any long-term value and actually stick around to the project. They're just looking for a quick ride up and then to dump their tokens. You know what I mean? And they probably only have a couple $100 worth of tokens at most.
True, man. It's true. It's weird though, because, coming from building, products previously and kind of in the Web 2 world, it's like everyone's minds are oriented around like, oh, we'll get a bunch of user feedback and we'll take that user feedback and then we're going to make a product out of it. Or like, what do the users say? Or, what is the, everyone's like always like, well, how many people used that? Or what are the analytics around that? And that was the way that you would build things in the Web 2 world. In the Web 3 world, you're kind of like, well, there could be this massive subset of people that are around your community that really are not going to be adding long-term value to what you're doing. And it's just such a opposite way of thinking about building software, because normally you're just trying to get as much customer feedback as humanly possible, and then turn that into some sort of roadmap to build something out. Where now it's like, man, I don't know if these couple 100,000 people that are in this Discord channel over the last 4 months really even know what we do. Like, and you're trying to figure some of that stuff out. And you're like, well, it's just the search for that core user, that rabid fan. Because I still feel like that rabid fan is the person that you're trying to build that community out of and create more of those people.
Sure.
But
yeah,
there's just like, I mean, look at what happened even with like, I mean, it happened to us. Look what happened with like Axie and a lot of these folks where it's like, dude, there's just massive groups of people that just attach to a project for a short period of time, and then maybe they move on to the next thing once they've like, and so it's like, if you're a project and you're out there, you kind of need to protect yourself against that. But, lucky for us, we've got, a blockchain where you can have, actual like ways of proving that you're worthwhile, and kind of keep building that out. But yeah, it's just backwards. It's been weird.
It totally is. No, it totally is. It's super interesting. We always talk about, I mean, especially in the DeFi space, which arguably is still a pretty insignificant market share when it, as compared to crypto as a whole. And you really tend to see, like, what we always call it, this ball of money that just tends to like roll around the DeFi space and is kind of going from one protocol to the next or one chain to the next. And it's the same people, it's the same money, you know what I mean? And 100%, it's like you got to protect yourself from that, and especially from like an emotional perspective, and from just I guess a mental health perspective as well. You know what I mean? Being in the chat all day, looking at people tell you what to do, and that that's not what you should be doing. It's draining sometimes. You know what I mean? And you're like, I mean, I've got hundreds of people telling me I should do this, but like, I know for a fact from experience that doing that is not a good idea. It might be a good idea for some short-term gains, but in terms of like long-term success of the project, I know that's not the right way to do it. And it's like, that's just difficult. You know what I mean? And you need to learn to take yourself outside of that for sure, and be able to make peace with the fact that, you can't hang on to every single community member. And I mean, it's not like they want to be there anyway, right? They just want that short-term gain, and they don't care about the health of your protocol long-term. They don't care about, ApeSwap being around and LunarCrush being around for 5 years. They just want to 10x their profits real quick and then dump and never talk to you again. So it's like, how much importance should I really be placing on this conversation? You know what I mean? And I feel like, yeah, it's definitely a challenge for a lot of protocols, and I mean, every protocol out there. And you gotta, like you said, you gotta protect yourself and make sure that you're listening to the right people. Because obviously, like you said, it's incredibly valuable to get that user feedback, particularly from a software perspective and product perspective. It's like we operate in kind of a bubble, especially when we're all like grinding and working so hard 24/7. We definitely need that outsider influence and feedback, but it's like finding the best way to distinguish valuable feedback and negative feedback. It's just very, very difficult.
This is a really big deal what we're talking about, because it when we talk about growing our teams and planning, this is where crypto is extraordinarily hard for people that haven't worked in it before. Like, you could work in any other industry and you come into crypto and you think you might be really good at sales, right? In another industry, come into crypto and you go, whoa, it works completely different. Everything I've learned over the past 20 years of my career is very different now in here. And the same thing goes with like product management. It's like, in other spaces, you might have like a strategy that you're going to try and execute over a year or two. You have quarterly planning, and then you execute and staff and all of that around that quarterly planning. With crypto, for us especially, like, we've moved way away from quarterly planning. We have monthly planning, and we revise it multiple times a month.
Sure.
We still kind of know where we're going, roughly speaking, and we kind of know what we're doing over the next several months in general. But it definitely changes depending on like trends we see, feedback, where the space is going, different things. And so that's a really hard thing for most to grasp and to hire for sure.
It totally is. No, it totally is. That's such a good call out. It's like, you need to be so flexible in this industry. It's kind of crazy because things just move so quickly. Innovation is constant, new things coming out, new ideas coming out. And it's like, between trying to plan things out, especially when you have limited resources and you're like, okay, well, we're going to build these products out and it's going to take, 1, 2, 3 months, sometimes even longer. And then you're seeing the market kind of completely shift around that. And like, okay, well, now maybe this isn't so relevant anymore. Now it's this. And then at the same time, kind of being able to distinguish, what are the fads, what are the short-term trends, and what's actually going to be the future of this industry, and what's actually worth spending time building out and working on. And that's, part of why we're focused so much right now on scalability, is like, we need a lot more time to be able to do the research and actually spend time making these decisions versus just, continuing with the status quo and doing what we've always done. Because, if you don't keep up and if you're not constantly ahead of the curve, you're going to get left behind, because it's just nonstop. The competition is so fierce in this industry, and the innovation is just constant, that it's like, you need a full team of people pretty much dedicated to research and development and ideating, and like you said, kind of like building out these plans that have to remain, somewhat flexible and open to adjustments, or constant adjustments, really, in order to maintain your position and really, continue to develop and grow.
So you said ApeSwap launched, was it April last year?
It was February last year.
February of last year. So how many years has it felt like?
That's such a good question. Oh, it's so funny too, because like I talk about this all the time, and we talk about it all the time on the team. It's like, on one hand, it feels like it's been, the blink of an eye, like everything just happened so fast. And on the flip side, it feels like it's been, like 5 years. I feel like every quarter feels like a whole year in the crypto space. You know what I mean? Like, so much happens, so much changes from quarter to quarter. I mean, it's crazy. And like you were saying, from comparing a traditional industry with crypto, I mean, it's like, it's completely different. Like, companies will set up strategies that, last at least a year, like at the very, very least. Strategies will last a year, if not, way, way longer than that. And for us, it's like, we are constantly, especially on the biz dev side of things, we're constantly evolving with our strategy, constantly changing how we do things, how we, handle deals, how we, from an operations perspective, I mean, it's like nonstop growth and change. And yeah, it's exhausting, and it's amazing, but it definitely leads to you feeling like, 5 years have gone by, even though it's been a year and some change.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's easy to say crypto's fast, but imagine this, flip it around. Joe, I got a nice, comfy job selling mortgages, and Julian, I got a really good job at Citibank for you. Like imagine going to work in the banking industry and that cadence versus what we're all dealing with. It's just crazy when you think of it that way.
It seriously is. It's I can't even, yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine at this point. It'd be such like a major, I feel like I'd be taking a break. It'd be like vacation.
Yeah, while you're working. Yeah.
Right.
So as we get into the second hour, I know we plan to do 4 here. No, so Julian, I did want to just, touch a little bit on, being like a DEX and being decentralized, having the DAO, and like you talked about scaling. And, there's one thing to scale team in process, but it's another thing to scale software. Are you guys thinking about, like John, we talked, I think it was like was it Flo who we talked to a couple of weeks ago, and just, talking about like decentralized AWS and like, are you guys still kind of built on this, like the Web 2 stack, like the majority of people are, and how do you think about, building, in the future as you're trying to kind of decentralize like the software as well?
That's a really good question. I'd say, from our perspective, I mean, I'm not the most familiar with the tech side of things, in terms of how we run things and I guess like what the future plans are. I was a lot more familiar with it, towards the beginning / like mid part of last year. But, since we've kind of been growing and expanding so much and have so many partners, it's been like, okay, we need to start taking steps to remove each other from, things that we don't necessarily be involved with. And it's like, okay, we trust you guys to handle this side of things. So I'm going to start muting these channels and, that type of attitude and behavior. It's been really, really helpful because obviously, we used to, I think all of us, like key decision makers at ApeSwap used to look at every single channel and every single message that ever went through our Discord for a very, very long time. So, you know, kind of being able to start developing that separation has been super helpful in allowing us to kind of continue pushing forward and everything. But yeah, no, I think right now I'm not too familiar. I know a lot about like not a lot, but I know a little bit about our infrastructure when it comes to like the nodes and stuff that we're using to run on. But I can't say I know too much about like our future plans and how we're going to continue decentralizing.
Cool. No, appreciate that. Yeah, just wanted to talk about it. It's interesting to think about what's going on, you know, in Europe and different platforms. And, you know, if you're a decentralized team and some of the software stack is still more centralized, it's like, well, you know, how do you work into that to where, you know, sure, it could still be used from a development standpoint for someone that's really technical if, you know, things got a little bit sketchier with the way that the world is working. But it's just always fun because I feel like this is like, that's the next iteration for a lot of the companies that are like Web 2 kind of moving Web 3 and like starting to kind of push that direction is like, how do you truly become like censor resistant and everything else? But we'll have to save that for the next LunarCrush ApeSwap live stream here next year.
Amazing. Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I mean, I definitely look forward to coming back on. You know, if you guys are ever interested in having us on again, I'm sure we could have a couple of other people on the team would love to be on as well. Maybe we could get into some more developer specifics as well. Maybe get some co-founders on as well. But yeah,
cool. And maybe we can do it down in Argentina.
Fun, hey, why not? Right? That sounds great. Welcome
cool,
anytime.
Well, Julian, man, I appreciate all of your help with everything that we've done together over the last couple of weeks, and appreciate you sharing everything about yourself and ApeSwap and your views in the world, man. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone out there for listening. And John, as always, man, we will chat with you all backstage.
Great, awesome.